Let's see. Are we live on YouTube? Yep, we're live on YouTube. And then I'm checking Facebook. Go live. Okay. Stephana, on your Facebook, on the very bottom, there's a blue button that says go live. Click that. And in theory, it will work. Did it work?
It
Hi,
looks like
everybody.
it.
Be patient
Yeah.
with us while we stream from multiple platforms. All right, so we are live from my YouTube, we are live from my Facebook, and we are live on Stephana's Facebook.
Woohoo! We got it.
We add a platform every time.
I love it.
The best part is I use Riverside.fm, so that's the third party, right? So that's where the anchor is here, and then it pushes it out to the other platforms. The best part about that, for people that aren't aware, is that Riverside records the clean version so that we can either repackage this as a proper episode with a beginning and an end and music and all that stuff, or we can just use it for shorts, which is basically what we've been using it for.
Yep.
So
And it's been looking good. I like them. I like them.
you're a little blurry, but I think it's because
So
of
much light.
you have a lot of light.
Well,
But
I
it's
have
the
the
is it the
window.
window?
Yeah. And we have sun. Thank
I
you.
know, good for you. I went for
You're
a walk
welcome.
yesterday. You would be so proud.
I heard you went for a walk and I heard what you stepped in, and that's
It's so
totally like
fun.
that is the biggest pet peeve of mine. It's like, come on, come on. Really?
So much too.
Yeah.
It would be one thing if it was like, okay, a couple. It was, and you can tell. My daughter goes, "How do you know it's the same person's poop?" And I'm like, "Because it's the same style of poop, and there's like large
Oh,
chunks of it in the same area." So obviously, they take their dog for a walk, same walk every day, and they poop in the same spot.
and it
I'm like, "Come
ruins the
on,
snow. I know. Come on. It's not cool. Not cool.
it's awful. It's awful." Well, plus because
So
we
it's
have
still
layers
blurry.
of snow, like you don't know what you're stepping in,
Oh,
and then mushy poop after. Like it's awful.
please. Yes,
All
please
right,
pick
tell
up. Yep.
everybody the name of our show. Do you want to do the intro? Ready? Here we go. In three, two. Hi,
It is
everybody.
only because I love you. Hi, everybody. That's right. It's only because I love you, Rachel. I mean, this is what it started about. That sometimes we have to talk about the hard stuff, and we're not doing it because we're trying to be destructive or criticize. We're doing it because we truly love one another, and we love you. And I think that that's what we have to step into a little bit more to make the progress we want to make. Because if we're always afraid of confrontation and we're afraid of criticism, right? It's the destructive criticism, no question. I'm like, no, thank you, not interested in that, because usually it's just projection, right? But when it is constructive feedback that supports you and helps you push forward, it's so much better, especially when you
Well,
can't see your own blind spots, right?
and that's the thing I mentioned today during the live to promote the live that our very first interactions, I had a hard time with the truth coming from you because I didn't see it as a truth, right? I had limiting beliefs that created a wall. And so when someone's trying to tell you the truth, like Stephana, you're not always in this space to hear it. Does that make
Hmm.
sense? Where it's like that. Well, that's not what I'm doing, or well, that can't be true. And I think that was the hardest part was being able to like put the walls down and really like see not just what you're telling me, but why I feel so combative about it.
Yeah, and that's a big piece of it as well, because we know with all of us, we're layers. We're more than just this, right? So there's a richness to that tapestry that we are. And if we can bring that out within ourselves, we are going to have so much more fulfilling lives than these superficial, and the NPC, what are they? The non-player, whatever characters. Stop being
Yeah.
that. Stop being that. Lead your own life. Step into your own right. Those are the things, and I have to tell myself that regularly as well. It's taken me a while to get to this place because I wanted to be that girl on the cover of 17 magazine when I was a teen, right? Or I wanted to be her, and I wasn't living my own life because my own life was scary, dangerous, unsafe, right? And once I'm gonna share this. So my son, 16, incredible athlete, has been literally on bed rest for the last 2 weeks. Like, can't do anything. Can't go to the bath. I mean, it's not fun. But this beautiful, amazing soul has done the work, the deep emotional work. And I've just watched him, and his whole entire existence has changed as a result of this, even though, at first as a mom, I'm like, okay, I have to fix this. I have to get the right this and the specialist and find out what's going on. And we have to da. And I had to take a cue from him to really, I mean, there was just so much. And in the last couple of weeks, so much has happened as a result of this one incident of incredible potential of trauma and scariness, and it was the perspective. I had to shift the perspective and be a calm, strong mom who could show up to this young man, and had to go through this what we're going through. But his whole I mean, the things that have happened, it's almost miraculous, and it's hard to say that when you're in it. For anyone who has experienced trauma or is kind of still in those processes, whether it's in a bad relationship or a business that's failing and you're not sure if you should just, cut it and move on, or change, or, there's so many things that we go through in our lives that we don't be in the moment of that, whether it's a failure or a success. We're not fully being in that moment to see what's coming up for us, all those feelings that come up. And I don't know if it's because we're afraid of the feelings or what. Anyway, I go off on tangents. I was telling myself, "Stop it. You want short clips, so
I
shut
love you.
shut up already." Anyway, okay, so there was that the introduction, or did I just
We just went off, and that's okay. It's fine. But to that point of, especially if you're an athlete, you have to be very careful about defining yourself by what you do. Because
Yes.
similar to what happened to your son, my friend has a daughter who's a gymnast, and she broke her arm. And it's like,
Mhm.
there goes finals. There goes all the things that she had dreamt about doing, because she defined herself as that thing that she does. And you aren't the
Exactly.
thing that you do. And I think that's so hard for people to understand. I'm
And it's
still
so
trying to understand
important.
that.
Yeah, yeah. But that's with anything. It's not just with athletes. We can it's more relatable with athletes, but oh my gosh,
Hmm.
it's for, yeah, a model, an actor, or a wife, a mother, a this, a business owner, and you're identified by that and can just it
Well, and you're an
no, yeah, you're
actress.
right.
It happens in that world so much, right? When you're
Yeah.
like, you're defined by, I'm an actress, this is what I do. And then say you're not getting roles anymore, or you're not getting like speaking parts, or things change. And it's like, well, if I'm not doing this, then who am I? And so
Yeah, it
that,
means this, it means that.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
So you had a question come up that you wanted to talk about today that could help a lot of people. And then if we have time, I'll bring up mine that sort of happened
No,
to me
yours is
too.
really important. I definitely wanna get into that because I have things that, I mean, failure is a big, wonderful topic, so we'll go into that. But this is something that came up in a peer group, and it's not uncommon that the worthiness and deserving, even when you have evidence that you are successful and you are, so you've got all the success, maybe you've made a successful business, you have a successful family, but you wake up at 3 o'clock, that 3 o'clock in the morning proverbial, what's the worry? It's that I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving of that. And there's multiple ways, because I not only have training, but I have my intuition. I'll look at it from different ways. And I look at it from, first the individual and into it, what's going on. For this one specifically, I noticed that it wasn't just a belief that she had from childhood that was put on her. And oftentimes that's what it is. That's often this deserving worthiness piece. It's based on destructive criticism as a child. You're not worthy or deserving. Those words aren't necessarily spoken, but the feeling comes across to the child who cannot decipher and go, "Oh yeah, mama's in a bad mood today. She's going off on any tangent that's around her." And so there's not that safety mechanism fully, or, and I shouldn't say safety mechanism, because your brain or your subconscious will create the safety mechanism, but you don't have the wherewithal to differentiate between BS and what's, oh, yeah, maybe I do need to go clean up the dishes or pick up my clothes or something. And that doesn't mean that I'm not worthy or deserving, right? So there's that. And then what I was noticing as it was being unpacked in the group is that there was communication about, well, who said that, right? Who said you were unworthy or deserving? I'm like, that's a road you can go down, right? Because we maybe took on a belief, and we understand that we're being programmed from 0 to 6, 7. And we're still, even after that, being programmed. But the deep programming, our fundamental programming is set in those early years. And then if you have this concept about yourself that you're only worthy or deserving if this, right? So there's that algorithm set in place. Then you're operating off of that. But if you already know and you have evidence that you are competent and capable and successful, then you're going to have to override that and make that program be that much more um, in the forefront, right? So if you have an old program that hasn't been removed from the computer because you're going to keep your base hardware, right? So you still have that software, but you upgrade it, but it still has the foundational piece, then you might have to go in and override it every time, right? I don't know if that's making sense, but the worthy and deserving, then, so there's two things that come up. First is that if it is from early programming, it's often because of a guilt placement or the destructive criticism that is internalized. And then the second piece that I noticed, and it was specific to this person that was communicating in the group about this situation and having this question come up. Intuitively, what I saw is that it wasn't it wasn't even hers, and it didn't even belong to her. It actually belonged to family member in the environment that was suppressed. It wasn't even projected. It was suppressed. And what happens oftentimes in families and communities that are very close is that suppressed emotions flow into the children, flow into the partner, um, because we are vibrational beings. We are energetic beings. And even though that feeling is suppressed or pushed down, it's still there.
Okay.
So it doesn't mean that somebody, because you could have the best childhood ever and nobody was ever cruel to you or said anything bad to you on the surface. But deep down, let's say the mother had fear of this, didn't feel worthy, but didn't speak about it, didn't feel deserving, but didn't speak about it, just did what she needed to do, got through her things. And then honestly, that's, I think, the frequency of children, because they are naturally empathic. They're going to pick up everything in the vibration. And that is what I saw. That's what I saw. So I wanted to talk about that. And yeah, so how does that sit with you?
So, two things. One, did you tell her how to flip that at 3 a.m.? Like, did you come up with a solution that could work for her, or is that up to her to figure out for herself? And then, two, I do want to have you explain why figuring out the source, like placing blame, like where did that come from or who said that to you, why that's not important. Because that just takes you down a different road of, instead of fixing the problem or solving the issue, you're blaming where it came from, right? Like that energy
Yeah,
needs
well,
to not shift to blame.
there's two parts to that concept, and I wouldn't go straight to blame, because I think it's valuable to look at what is and be able to tell the truth about what is. The blame comes in when we take no responsibility, when we're pointing the finger. Because if it's in you, it is your response, and your ability to respond can be changed or shifted as a result of your understanding of yourself, your surroundings, your relationships, and your relationship with your past, right? So in terms of, I like to keep things as simple as possible. And when there's a significant amount of charge, the lighter, more gentle approach is more effective, as opposed to, okay, now let's go and dig up that piece and right?
Right. Like, who did this to you?
Yeah,
Right.
and
Like, that
and then you
doesn't
can,
solve anything.
it does not. It does not. And it has to go back to, well, what do you ultimately want? What do you want? Once you're clear on that, then we can move forward. Well, um, then like we said a couple weeks ago, you can then cut away what doesn't belong, right?
Mhm.
You're clear on where you're going. If something comes up that feels like a block, those are great opportunities. If we haven't learned yet, every block, every failure, every no is that opportunity to grow or to shift or to, it really is grow, even if that growth looks different than what we had planned out.
And I think that's where um the idea came in of what I was referring to when you first would start telling me the truth, and I was so like blocked against it. I had to sit with it and really understand, like, okay, why am I feeling this way? And I had to be willing to ask myself that question. I think a lot of us aren't willing to even ask, why am I feeling angry? Why am I feeling fear? Why am I feeling this around this issue? We just blame the issue. Right? Well,
Right.
because this person said this to me once and now I'm pissed off. It's like, okay, but why are you pissed off? Why? Because you believe it? Because is this a limiting belief? Dot, dot, dot. So I think that that's when you said it's an opportunity to learn and grow, we really have to see that as an opportunity and really take that beat and ask ourselves that question of like, okay, why am I feeling this? And I think a lot of us don't do that because we don't want to pull the thread.
Yeah, and it's it's totally understandable because it's very uncomfortable. But if you can take the time to do what you need to do with it built in every day. I'm learning this concept. It's not a new concept and it's not new to me, but I am utilizing it more as I explore deeper levels of understanding of myself as a spiritual being, as all across the board. And it's the trivia method of, and it in the computer language, it's input, process, output, right? And I think that there is such an imbalance of input in this world for most in today's, smartphone age, where there's just so much input and we're not doing a quality control of that input. And then it becomes this autopilot of input with no opportunity to process and output, which would include elimination. This is the exact process of eating, right? If we're constantly eating, 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 we're not allowing our body to go into process and digest so that it can eliminate what it doesn't need and so that it can use the food for fuel so that our body can function better so that we can rebuild and repair, right? Same principles anywhere is this trivia method. So utilizing that three-prong process really can help anyone, I believe, in any situation use this. Okay, do I need more processing time? Do I need more output time? Do I need, right? And if we just build this in to our daily lives, whether it's in our relationships, our relationship with ourselves first, that's the most important relationship, and then the relationships out in our concentric circles of our close family, what's not been processed. Think about how many relationships, how many marriages have they just split apart because there's no processing time or there's no output time, or it's imbalanced where there's input, 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 and there's an imbalance, right? Yeah.
Well, especially in marriages too, sometimes I think people, like one partner may want to work on it and the other's already had months or years of getting out of it mentally without facing the problem. I think that
Don't
happens a
say
lot
years. That's
too.
tragic. Don't
That
do
is tragic.
that.
My
Don't
husband and
waste your
I,
life that way.
we had a period of time where we separated, but I was happy with the separation because it gave us time to process. Does that make sense? And then we sort of came back together with a new agreement, a new process, and a new way of doing things. And it's worked so far. So, yeah, sometimes taking that beat and having a partner willing to do the work with you is worth it. So,
Yeah.
what advice did you give her now for those 3 a.m.s? Or do you think that by going through the process with her, she probably won't have those 3 a.m.s anymore?
Well, in terms of advice, so most of it was really listening, and that's what it's about because you unravel the stuff on your own if you listen, you know?
Listen to myself or listen to you?
No,
Who
if
am
you
I
listen,
listening
yeah, if you well, here's the thing, most of us yeah,
to? Both.
good. Yeah, most of us need to be heard, and they're not being heard. That she was able to voice it, that was number 1. If you can voice something like that, now we are creating safe spaces to do that, to voice that, right? And I think that everyone should have a process for their own lives where they sit down and they can tell themselves the truth, write themselves the love letter, the hard letter, right? I sit
Mhm.
down and write that letter to Stephana.
You do? You write yourself
Oh
love
my
letters?
gosh,
Or
yes.
what's a hard letter? Is a hard
A
letter
hard
like
love, it's because I love you. I do the exact I'm serious.
Oh my
It
god, we need to create a worksheet. It's a because I
Oh,
love you
yeah.
worksheet for people to write themselves letters. Oh my
I
god,
have
tell me what to write on it and I'll create
this
it and
this
then I'll add
came from okay, let me tell you where got this because the source was fantastic. John Gray,
it.
who
Okay.
I trained years and years ago. This is
I'm
in the
writing it
late
down.
early 90s. And what did he write? Men Are From Mars books and things like that. He was
Oh,
a
okay.
therapist, right? And also John Bradshaw. This is where as my trauma and abuse training comes in as a therapist. And those love letters, those inner child letters, there were years. I haven't done it in quite a while, but those inner child love letters where you're writing with your non-dominant hand and you are expressing what's going on deep within you. And there, what other safe place is there than right in your own home? Nobody's judging you, that kind of thing. And then the love letter is, yeah, it's like, Dear Stephana, I hate that you were such an ass to da 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 da. And, I know you were upset and I know you were frustrated, but I don't like that you did that. And I want you to be a nicer person because I believe in you and I know you have goodness in your heart. And at the same time, Stephana, do not bend over to I'm saying terrible word. I mean, this is like so tacky. Do not sacrifice yourself. Do not, what was I saying the other day about do not undermine your own goodness and go backwards on what you know to be true. And this is specifically in dealing with, this is really personal, dealing with something that's going on with my family right now, with my extended family, my brothers and my mom, and there's just, oh, it's so easy to get caught up in that drama with anything. It doesn't have to be whatever it is. You can get caught up in these dramas. And the tools that I like to use, because I'm tactile, I will write, and I will write those letters not from a blame place, but from a responsibility place, right? And telling the truth to myself is like, okay, That was really not cool. I don't know why I made that choice at that time. And I will say sometimes I don't know why you made that choice at that time, Stephana, because I know you're better than that. And that way I'm not blaming. It's like you did this and you did that. I'm not doing it in that way, and I'm not saying I'm not taking it on as because I don't want that in my future. I want to help my future self. I want to definitely not give her more problems, right? And I go back to that 30-year-old, that 20-year-old, that 15-year-old, that 12-year-old, and allow them to write. And that's the John Bradshaw, Writing with the Inner Child. And that has transformed me more than anything, any of the other work that I've done. Those are the pieces that are really helpful.
And do you feel like it's really because instead of just internalizing it and not confronting it and having it like spin like in the back of your head, you're getting it out and you're hearing yourself, right? You said like started that with being heard is really important. And so if you don't have a coach, if you don't have a guide, if you don't have a therapist, if you don't have somebody to like get it out to, write that letter to your younger self or your inner child. I love that.
Yeah, and you can write it from that inner child to find out what those needs are. Marshall Rosenberg, who created nonviolent communication, said anyone in anywhere is only ever saying a please or a thank you. And if you use that concept, then you can look at even the biggest rants or the conflicts that go on within small or big, even the conflicts internally are what's the please in that? And it's those deeper needs. Please hear me. Please see me. Please recognize me. Please love me. Right? Those kinds of things. It's fundamental needs. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that is what the worthiness and deserving uh, can can bring up. And then if I were to go into psychotherapy on it, specifically therapize on it, it would because it wasn't just resolving and it was continuing to come up, I would look for a specific incident that was locked in place, and then I'd clear it with them, right?
Hmm.
And in clearing that, there's going to always be some kind of decision or moment where you had taken that on and it became your identity, right?
Hmm.
And another book that I love is Feelings Buried Alive Never Die by Carol Truman. Fabulous.
I'm
I
writing it down.
highly recommend that book to anyone who is struggling with, Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. My gosh, there's the names right there. There's a script in there. She runs that, and in that book, it also describes every ailment, every physical ailment, and then what's the psychological and then what's the reversal on that, right? So in therapy, those are tools that you would use, and that is a fabulous um, self-care and self-healing book. I love that book.
Okay.
I recommend it to many of my clients. And then, of course, when you need other deeper support, then there's me, which I was gonna mention that I'm gonna open up my calendar to do specific readings.
You
Just
are?
I'm gonna do readings. I wanna start doing a few of them every week. Yeah, I like
I'm
being in the records.
so happy for you. I'm so happy for the people you're going to help. That's amazing.
Good.
Center yourself more if you can. You're off center for some reason. Something
Oh,
happened.
I keep moving.
So basically, readings meeting, you're going to use your intuition brain, even
I
though
am.
you intersperse that in all of the guidance and the coaching that you do anyway. But
100%. So I'm gonna do yes, I wanna say practice, but I wanna make it more natural in my daily life, and it used to be really easy because I was doing them all the time, and then I got more into the strategic pieces, and now I wanna balance that, yeah.
oh my gosh, I love that. I'm excited for whomever books time with you because you're
Thank you.
incredible. You tap into stuff that
Let's talk about that
I
piece
love it.
now.
Okay.
You ready?
Oh God, here we go. Which piece are we talking about?
Well,
What's
you were
whatever's
inspired
coming
to
to
write a
you?
blog. You were
Yeah.
inspired to write a blog
Okay.
about it. No, no, and I'll just tell you and acknowledge you. I'm really proud of you, and
Okay.
I love what you're doing, and you just gotta keep doing it, right? That live you did today, the pieces that you're finding your way, you're taking the next step, and you're doing the processing. You're taking the time to process. And do the output. I think there is a lot of output still, and then just
Oh
continue. I
yeah.
mean, I see it. It's definitely more balanced. Going back to that trivium, I see it more balanced now for you, and,
I feel
I
less
love that.
chaotic. Is that the word? Like less chaotic?
Yeah.
Whereas like usually there's so much chaos on my brain. And I think it's because I fight with myself, right? I've got the ego side of me that wants to do one thing, and then I've got the other side of me that just wants to help everybody. And then finally got comfortable with being a personality and a content creator, and then putting the focus on myself, which I think was so hard for the longest time. Um, that was so hard. I had an article that's being written about me, and it's one of those things where you answer the questions on your own time, and it was like God, and part of it was, what do you want to promote? And I was like frozen because I don't know, because there's so many different things I want to promote, but I'm understanding that where I want the spotlight to go. And so that was clarifying too, just that we have to answer that question of, if you can only promote one thing, what is it that you want to talk about? And so that was just like, oh, okay. I can see what rose up first, right? Like what lit up first out of all the things, between one-on-ones and podcasting and producing and like docu-series and all of those things, like what immediately was like, oh no, this is what I want to focus on. And it's completely, I don't even think anything that I have talked about at all yet, which is hilarious. Why
So
not?
that is where the balance of the intuition and the strategy come in, because I'd want to create your strategy so that you are crystal clear and understand in context what you want to promote, right? You can see that picture, that big picture of what
Hmm.
you're creating with your business, with your life. And so you're clear on, this is the most effective piece to promote right now because it ties to my launch of my membership program, and that will also help remove some of the chaos, some of the da, 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 right? Because you
Hmm.
have a clear strategy, and then you balance it with that intuit the spiritual side, that beautiful side that's so strong in you, right? And then once that's balanced and it becomes a little bit more practiced within you, aligning that, you're gonna feel so much better and more stable in that energy, and that's that deep root chakra, that's that base, that's that you'll be able to be more centered in your base because you've got the passion, right? But we need to get you rooted in what I'm calling your powerhouse, right? The physical powerhouse. So we're tapping into that, and then you're that much stronger to be able to do what you need to do and to create a leaf or a branch that branches off in those leaves, right? But then also
Yes.
having the support you need because you're not gonna be doing it all.
We're working on that.
Okay? Yeah, I know
We're
you
working on that. We're slowly growing a team. It has to be what I feel comfortable with. I don't want to outgrow so quickly. Does that make sense? Like
I totally
I
understand, and
need some control.
you've got your, gates up, you've got your guardrails up. I see them, and that's fine. That's fine, just love on that. Love on that and know because it's evolving as it needs to evolve perfectly.
And that's the fascinating thing is, and I talked about this with my soul guide yesterday because I was like, it's so funny because we have all these tools, and the more I practice with the tools and the more I say the things out loud, the less imposter syndrome I have. Right? Like to say, oh, I'm creating a paid community where I can help small businesses succeed. It's fascinating. Like the more I say it, the easier it is. The new one is, oh, I'm writing a children's book and publishing it by the end of the year. Or no, I wrote a children's book and I'm finally publishing it before the end of the year. Right. So like just say that out loud of like, oh, I'm a children's book author or I'm a writer. That's the side of me that like the little Rachel had been working on for so long that I sort of just put aside, put it aside, put it aside, right? To say I'm a writer, to say I've published a book. I never really thought I would get to that space. And so it's just now just feels like the right time. I mean, I had it written for years. I could have done it years before, but it just didn't feel like the right time. Now feels like the right time. Is there something in that about timing? Is it an astrological thing, a numerological thing, or is it really just here, right here was just okay, I'm ready to be that
It's
person.
the alignment, and it's what you said earlier with regards to the identity. Your self-image, your self-identity, right, was not in alignment with the actions, with what you were creating. You wrote the book. It was done. You did the actions, but your
Yeah.
self-image was not in alignment with that. And that's the piece. It's like those athletes that are incredible, but then when they go out and they are ready to go win the gold, but they can't. It's because their self-image is not clear. That's why that high performance work is starting in the mind, right? You've got to get that mind piece right and practice. What do you want? What do you want? And be okay to say, well, there's 2 ways to do this because we can circumvent this and go, "Well, I have this book that I want to be in the hands of every child because there's a message that I wanna share, and even if I could help 2 children on this planet, that would be amazing." Then maybe that would be a different identification than, "I'm this children's book author." Right? It's there's different things, or I'm a children's book author, right? Your identity of that needs to be in alignment with that, and that's what you've done, right? Now you're
Mhm.
starting to shift in that, and that's what's exciting. I know, same as that, yeah.
It's exciting because you go through I think you go through the steps at first because it's just like, "Oh, this person said," like, I'm sure when you're working with somebody, okay, so Stefana said to do these things. And when you're doing them at first, it's just like you're checking off the list, right? Go for the walk, do the meditation, drink the water, eat healthy, go to bed, get off the phone, all the things, right? And so at first, it's just checking off the list. And then as you do it more, it just becomes this subconscious space where like it just clicks. You're not checking it off the list anymore, you're just doing it. And so when you get to that like aligned clicked space where it's just like we're just doing it now, it frees your brain up to be able to align more with the bigger dream, to be able to say the thing out loud. And then as soon as I realized, again, I'm identifying myself, trying to use a label like I am when I remove all of it, right? And I can just sit and be with myself and just love myself, regardless of what I am, what the label is, then I can do all of it because none of it
Then you're
really
in your
matters.
power.
Right. I'm just doing it because I want to. I'm not doing it for the label. I'm not doing it for the sales. I'm not doing it for anything else beyond it's just something I wanted to do. And that's okay.
And that's where you've tapped into your powerhouse. And if you lead your
Yes.
life from there, all is right in the world. Now, I'd like that for everyone on this planet. We'd have a very, very different outcome on this planet if everyone were in that space and understood that clearly. Yeah.
And I love that. I think I disappoint myself less this way too. Does that make sense? Where
Good.
it's like,
I'm glad.
I'm tired of disappointing myself. I just need to do the thing. So,
Yes.
what came up yesterday was basically the realization that I'm so afraid of failure because I haven't failed a lot in my life. And then I read something on Facebook where somebody straight up said, I made an offer, I created um, whatever it is, an offer. I don't know. It was probably like an online group coaching course or something. And she said 2 people signed up. And so I failed, realized I failed, had to shut it down, and realized either people didn't want it. Maybe it was the wrong offer. Maybe I didn't put enough marketing behind it. But I was so happy that she celebrated the failure because we're so used to seeing all the wins on social media that not a lot of people celebrate the failures. And even my guide was like, he had a retreat that he had set up and no sales. And he went online and said, I'm shutting this down for now. We're going to pivot, maybe reschedule, but this didn't work out. Is there something in the failure that really we have to see is a teaching moment, is a learning moment, is a moment to process?
Well, right in the word itself, there's no such thing as failure, right? That's just a made up identification of some circumstance. And then we make it mean a bunch of things because da 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 da, because da da da. It's just what it is, right? She launched something awesome. That's amazing. That in and of itself is a win, right? So
Right.
we go win or lose, failure or success, failure or success. Really, are we so duality focused that there's only win or lose or fail or succeed? No. So we have to move out of that. We have to remove ourselves from that kind of polarity thinking, black or white, right? And we have to shift and go, when you just described the gal that launched and what she learned and that she launched and that she was able to look at this and debrief, what she learned, that can be priceless because look at how many people go to college for however many years. And at the end of that, they're completely lost. They have no clue where they're going. She has basically that could have saved her $50,000 by doing that freaking launch. That's not a failure to me, right? So we have to watch our words and remove some of these tricky words that hang us up like no, no. And the guy with the retreat, here's the thing. You never know. You never know if maybe he was going to do a retreat during a time when the season was going to have a hurricane and the tsunami was going to come through there. And thank God they weren't there. Who knows? This is the Zen proverb, right? Where the horse runs away and the farmer says, the neighbor comes and says, oh, that's terrible. He says, it is what it is type of thing, right? It's neither good nor bad. He's like, okay. And not that he's numb about it, but he just understands the nature of the world, the nature of the universe. And the next couple of weeks later, the horse comes back with a stallion and a foal type of thing. The neighbor's just like, oh my gosh, look what you did. Da, da, da. You've got 3. That's amazing. It's a miracle. That's a success. You won. Maybe, maybe not, right? He's not attached to it. Then his son gets on this foal and tries to break it and is thrown off and breaks his leg. And the neighbor runs over. That's the worst thing ever. Oh my gosh, you should kill those horses. It's the terrible thing, failure, blah, 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 right? No. Maybe, maybe not. A couple weeks later, the army comes through. They're taking all the men, able-bodied men. And the boy doesn't go because he's got a broken leg, right? So it's that. It's that. And when we can start to learn for ourselves, it's not that we can't be excited. I love it. And it's not that we can't be deep down awfully, oh, this is a horrible failure, blah, blah, blah. Because I love that but you have to know that you're dramatizing it. This is where my acting comes in. I love feasting on these delicious emotions all over the scale, from deep despair to exhilarating bliss and all over the place. But you have to know you're not your emotions. You have them. And as you experience life from this perspective that you're not your emotions, you're not your thoughts, you're not your beliefs. And I would even take it a step further and look at that first initial thought that comes in that I'm a failure. You can choose whether or not that's true or not, or that if you'll reject that or accept that as a thought. And that's a practice that we all have to get into is when a thought comes in, that's just a thought. We don't know if it's true. We don't even have to accept it. We don't even have to reject nothing. We don't even have to entertain it. It's just a thought that came in. What we do after the next thought is where we have control. And so that's what we want to gain back access to. And then from there, just freaking enjoy the heck out of it. I look at that, it's like he even was thinking about doing a retreat. That's amazing. These kinds of things, and then you wrote a blog about it. So, that's the gift of life, is living this journey instead of being afraid or waiting for the next shoe to drop or all those different things. Like, just be present.
Well, be present, be the observer, and detach yourself from the outcome. Right? It's okay to have the vision of what could happen and what you want to happen, but
Yeah.
detach yourself from that because you never know. Something better could happen.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, detach yourself from that. So what does that actually look like? Are you detached from it? You're present. You're just present. You're not in that future of worrying one way or the other or thinking it should be or whatever. You've already put it out there. You've created the vision. You've idealized, this is the idea I have, and you've created the vision around it, and you've then maybe made the structural steps that you need to take, and you go and do that. But be in the present moment moving forward in that, because that's your life. That's the essence, and the life force is right here, right? So it's balancing that, not detaching or attaching, right? Neutral in that way.
Mhm.
And then but again, this has to be for each individual. Not everyone's like me. Not everyone's like you, right? I like the drama and I experience it. Funny, stupid story. When I was going through my divorce, I remember the divorce was not final. We were still living together. We were still trying to, it was just whatever. He was going on dates. Okay. Which is fine. We already agreed. It's like, okay, you're going to go on dates because he needed that. Awesome. He went out on a date and something came up inside of me of this vicious, jealous. It was horrible. It was horrible. These feelings like, "Holy crap." It was, like, frightening, terrifying. I mean, it was crazy, like, to the point where it's like throwing all of his stuff out on the front lawn, destroying, taking scissors and shearing it everywhere, and, like, right, that's the emotion that was coming up in me, and I literally was standing in my kitchen. It was, like, 11:30 at night. My boys are asleep. This guy's out on a date. What the F? And I'm like, the voices are saying, you don't let him, I'm changing the locks, da 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 da. Right. This is all the stuff that, can you imagine all this? This is like,
Yes,
this is,
I get
but
it.
we don't have to dramatize it, right? And I'm literally like watching all this. I'm watching all this emotion and this intensity. And I had never up to that point experienced anything like it. I was like, holy crap, who is that woman? And I literally was like, laughing. There was a part of me that was just like, "Oh my god, I didn't know that you were capable of that, woman. That was amazing." It was like, it was so freaking intense. And I never would have experienced that had had I not been present to my life. And I was so fully present to it. I so fully felt every nugget of that. That it was excruciatingly, deliciously evil and funny, and there was so much. I just rode the river of those emotions. That's what I learned from Sandy Meisner in studying acting and Neighborhood Playhouse and Playhouse West, is that to live truthfully in imaginary circumstances is you are fully there living truthfully, and these imaginary circumstances take you, and that's what most of us, we don't realize that most of it's an imaginary circumstance. All of the stuff, that the jealous, he was with this woman and da 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 da, like, wow, what? Okay, like, what? It was so amazing, and I learned so much in that. And I was able to be with the stimulus response and create the gap between the stimulus, and the any response and anything I was taking in the physical universe, right? Because it was so important to me, to be fundamentally, I want to be the best mom ever. That would not have been the best mom ever if I had done something so evil, cut off all those, change the locks. But I did. What's funny is I told him later. And that's the thing is um, if we can just start experiencing whatever it is we're fully feeling, but not need to dramatize it, not need to act it out or do right,
Hmm.
you're going to grow and you're going to blossom, and it won't be shoving down emotions. And as a result, your kids will not filter that you've buried, because it'll trickle into them. And so will your partner. If you've buried stuff, it's just going to filter into them. So we've got to be able to tell the truth to ourselves, communicate it, and then communicate calmly if as needed. It's like, hey, I'm needing this. And I did after that. I said, I need us to be fully divorced.
Hmm.
I need the full, like, it to be done. I need you in your own home, not in my home. And I need this. And I was able to say that afterwards. I couldn't before. I was like, I'll be a big girl. You can date and it's okay. I can, No. So that was what was needed. But I told myself the truth, and I was like, yeah, we're done. You're going to go get your own apartment, and we're done. And the divorce we need it finalized. Like,
But it's like you needed that moment to give you that
oh
push
yeah.
too, right?
To understand that it was even in me, because I'd been burying it for so long. I'd been burying it, and I had buried most of my emotions for most of my life. And I think so many of us do that. Male, female, doesn't matter. We bury our true feelings. One, because we don't know what to do with them. Two, because we don't tell ourselves the truth. And guess what? Three, most people around us are not telling the truth about their true feelings, right? How you doing? I'm fine. I'm wonderful. I'm good.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
this, I'm that, or whatever. Or they'll do the extreme on the other side. Anyway, woo, we've been on.
But that's the one of the things that I've said for a long time is it's tough because when you finally answer that question, like how are you really, truthfully, and you start to pull out that thread, it's really tough to go back to I'm fine, everything's fine, it's fine. It's like when you can finally say, you know what, I'm not fine. That's when you know, okay, step one. It's just admitting
Yes,
it's
but
not okay.
make sure you're saying that to the right person.
Yes. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you
No,
don't wanna
no.
go, yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
think
no.
that that's each of us needs to have our own, like, who is our safe person or people? And it's reciprocal, so they're not being we need sounding boards.
Yeah, don't say
We
it to
need
your
them.
coworker who knows you know you're is gonna throw swords at him
No.
later. You
Don't
just
put it on
tell
Facebook either, please.
practice the fake smile. Oh, I hate those. Those are just the generic stuff too, and people just want attention. So really quickly, his idea of afraid of failure because I haven't failed a lot. So he wants me to my homework is to make a crazy huge offer to a potential client,
Yes.
and maybe they'll say no because I play it safe all the time with my offers because I pretty much know I'll get a yes because of it. But it's also
Mm.
devaluing my time, right? And it's not necessarily where I want to be spending my time anymore. So he's basically said your homework is to create a crazy offer that you may get a no from and be okay with the no and be okay with that being like the failure. Because the job is in making the offer. Um, and that sort of flipped it too, because I always tell my daughter the job is in, she wants to be an actress. So the job is in the audition, not getting the actual part. The job is the audition. And so I flipped that around and I said to him, I was like, oh my God, it's almost like the job is in the sell, right? The job is in me positioning it and like, here are the options. Whether they say yes or no, not up to me. They have to see what resonates with them and go from there. But my job is to just at least pitch a good offer that I'm comfortable with and go and see what happens. I had never really thought about selling in that way.
Yeah, interesting. Well, first, I wouldn't call it a job. I would, because it's not. It's your work, and be really passionate and loving about your work, because you're an incredible gift to those who wanna work with you, right? Part of the work is to communicate in a way that reaches the person, company, organizations that you can help, and it also, I mean, that's again goes to the strategic piece. You have to look at what your margins are. This is business 101 is what are your margins? What is your time worth? What it, and you need to be clear on those things. Once you're clear on that, again, that takes a lot of the confusion away and it simplifies everything. What are your offers? Here's your high ticket offer. This is what it is. And then you've got your membership or whatever you have. That's going to take so much pressure off you. But I misunderstood because I thought it was your spiritual coach had the failure himself because of the
He did
retreat.
too. Yeah, he had the retreat
Oh,
failure.
okay. And then he
I have
then gave you an assignment.
yes, exactly.
Well, I'm curious as to what his assignment was. What did
For
he assign
himself.
himself? Yeah.
I'll
Right.
ask him next time I see him.
Yeah. Find out. And then I will say for your daughter, because here's the thing. My work as an actor, and I hated it, were the auditions. Because I was so in the deserving and worthiness stuff of, there's so many more beautiful, talented, blah, blah, blah than me. And that's not effective, right? So what it is, then it becomes strategically a numbers game. And we can all look at this is you go after the no's. And an acting coach told me this years and years ago. You want to get to 99 no's. Once you get to 99 no's, then you'll tell, right? So that's what we played the game of. It's 99 no's so that those no's are not so painful. We don't feel the rejection. We're actually wanting them, right? I think salesmen do it where they put, I heard this about a salesman who put marbles, like you leave the house with 10 marbles in your right pocket and they need to be in your left pocket where those are the no's. You go get those no's. And I think that that's a really good process to get behind, especially if your daughter's serious about being an actor. It's like, give me those no's, baby. Give them. Give me 'em. It means I'm going and auditioning. It means I'm showing up. It means I'm right. And every no, if you then do a debrief with yourself and look at what could I have done better, not how can I fit into that role because they're all different, but what's the next level of improvement here? Do I need to have my lines a little bit more down? Do I need more? Do I need to build in more time to process my line or to rehearse my lines or memorize my lines or, what are those things? And then every time you do that, you are getting better. You're getting better. You're getting better. Each time is a no, you're getting better, right? Because what if you got the audition and then you go, where's the room to get better?
Right.
Yeah. I'm excited for your daughter. I cannot wait. So what's happening? You're gonna tell me everything, and we'll talk about it, and then we'll play and good.
Oh God, I know, because you're the perfect person. I think you and her,
Oh,
the
so
two
fun.
of you,
So fun.
would connect on such a completely different level, and we'd definitely be able to help her get to that next space because you can understand it from the acting perspective.
Yeah.
I just want to share her with the world. It's so hard. I want everyone to know, like, talented and funny she is. So
That's
we'll
awesome.
get there.
Yay.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Don't go away. Well, Stephana, don't go anywhere because I'll tell you how to get out of this. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you do have questions, DM us. You can go to @Stephana Johnson _ is her Instagram. But if you're watching this on Facebook, you can leave it in the comments. You can DM both of us on Facebook as well, or on YouTube. It's easy to contact us. Thank you so much, as always. You're amazing. I love you.
I love you, my darling.
And if somebody does want to book a one-on-one session with you, but what are you calling the sessions?
That's a great question.
Intuitive sessions.
I'll put intuitive. I'll put them intuitive session. Yes, because I'm not going to do any assessments. I'm not going to do anything. It's literally I'm live with you right then and there. And oftentimes I'm doing a lot of assessing pre-work and post-work. That's why it's not just an hour dollar for an hour, but I'm just going to do basically time for money on this one because I just want to do more intuitive work specifically.
Oh, you're so
and
good
if they want to do it, then awesome. Yeah, it's cool. All right.
What's the best way to do it? Are you go to Stephana or
I will have my calendar link, but Stephana @StephanaJohnson.com. You can always send
an email.
and then you can book. Yep. Yep.
Okay, I love you. I'll put everything in the descriptions. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Yeah, make it an amazing day.
All right, stay right there. Go flip over to your Facebook tab. I'm pressing end live video.